It's a cold one today. Are you in need of a warm hug in a bowl? This classic corn chowder recipe comes together easily and with one optional substitution goes from ordinary to extraordinary. Come on in and I'll show you how. Come on in, friend. I'm making corn chowder today. I am starting with a sweet potato. I am going to get this diced up into bite-sized pieces. The sweet potato, it's a medium-sized sweet potato. I don't know if you can kind of get an idea of how big that was before I started. This is a substitution that I have made to my grandmother's recipe. I always found potatoes taste mealy in soup, and I don't know if it's the type of potatoes or something I'm doing, but I have never really been a fan of potatoes in my soup. Even like chicken soup, just not a fan. You know, like every generation that gets a recipe, once I got a hold of the recipe and started cooking myself, I started making changes to improve the recipe the way I wanted the recipe to taste. And this is one of the changes I made. This is obviously optional. If you like potatoes in your soups, go ahead and use a potato. You probably want to use a medium to large size potato. It just depends on how much soup you're making. I'm just going to make a smaller batch. This is going to be a lot of potato for it. I did peel this sweet potato and I gave it a wash. I do find that sweet potato sometimes excretes a white latex material that's a bit sticky. So I gave it a quick wash just to get some of that off. I am going to pre-cook this. That way I don't have to worry about simmering my soup for too long and potentially splitting the milk. So this is sort of a little trick. I have about 1 tablespoon of butter in the pan that I have melted. And I am going to put in my onion and get that lightly cooked. This soup really does come together quickly. It is probably about half an hour before I'm going to eat lunch, and I am pulling this together. I have 1 medium-sized onion. Okay, I'm just going with a sort of fine dice on the onion. I don't want it to be minced, but I don't want to have really big chunks of onion. I do want to make sure I am going fine. Even though I can't go fine in the pole-to-pole direction, I'm getting my cuts closer together in the equatorial position, if that makes any sense. Whatever works best for you to get sort of a smaller dice. This is what I'm looking for. I don't know if you can see. It's a bit of a variety of sizes, but for the most part, I want them to be a little more on the small side than the bigger side. I want the onions softened. I don't want it browned. So I do have this on like a medium heat. And I am just going to soften this up and get it in an edible state. I mean, you don't want to eat raw onion. This will require a little bit of simmer time, but you do want to make sure you do most of the cooking of the onion up front to prevent too much simmering and potentially splitting your milk sort of on the other end of the cooking process. That is literally all of the knife work. We're done with the knife work now. Now, such a small dice of sweet potato. My sweet potato is actually cooked and ready to go for this dish. I have drained it. I gave it a quick rinse in cool water just to sort of slow the cooking process down, but you know, I'm not going to use ice water or go out of my way to stop it from cooking. It will be fine. So at this point, the onions are kind of the slowest member of the group. If you're in a hurry, you might want to switch things around, get your onions going first, and then peel up your sweet potato and dice that up while your onions are slowly softening in the pan. My onions are soft enough now. They have picked up a little bit of color. I'm not too concerned because, hey, it's for me. I don't care. I am going to put in my sweet potato. I'm not going to put all of it in just in case that's too much. We'll start with that. I have a can of creamed corn. Use what you have. Use what you like. Make this recipe your own. If you have a shallot, use a shallot. If you just have regular corn, use that. You can always add a little bit of thickener to thicken it up a little to get the consistency you want. Then I am going to add a cup of milk. If you have cream or half and half, go ahead and use that. That will make for a thicker soup. If you just have milk, go ahead and use that. You can also use evaporated milk in a can. Don't don't use the sweetened condensed stuff. That would be gross. But if you have regular evaporated milk, that would work really nicely. Now I am going to make sure I get all of the goodness out of my can. And I am going to add about 2 to 3 more tablespoons of butter and allow that to melt in there. This will give it another level of creaminess to the soup as well. This is a really good clam chowder as well. If you want to just skip the corn and put in a can of drained baby clams, this works beautifully for that. This is actually how we make our clam chowder. If you're curious about how to make a clam chowder, it's the exact same recipe. It's just drained clams instead of cream style corn. Now that everything has come together, I'm going to put some salt and pepper in it to season it up, then allow it to simmer. I'm probably putting in about a quarter, maybe slightly more of each. If you're using potato, you can probably get away with more salt. I'm just using sweet potato, and I do not need to put in a lot of salt for this. So that's that. It just needs to simmer, just to come together a little bit, and then it's ready to portion out. This is how my version of corn chowder comes together. Simple, quick, pairs really nicely with my icebox rolls. I have that link. Go check it out. Thanks for watching.